Alrighty then. So now we're going to talk about the Portland Trailblazers. They're projected for 41.5 wins, which would put them at 6th in the West. People that they picked up in the offseason are Robert Covington, Derek Jones Jr., Enes Kanter, and Harry Gills III. People that they lost are Trevor Ariza, Hassan Whiteside, and Mario Hazonia. There you go. An injury to note is Zach Collins with an ankle injury. He'll be out till like about mid-January. And then their coach is still Terry Stotts.
All right. So 6th, who is ahead of them? Do you know off the top of your head? Or do you have it?
I have it. So it goes Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, Mavs, Jazz, Blazers.
Oh, they're better than the Jazz.
Yeah.
They're better than
I was going to say that in my head they were the 4th seed.
Yeah. That's why I was trying to think about it, because this is another team where last year they were 8th, right? But they've had years where they were like 3rd.
Yeah.
Like the Trailblazers 3rd 2 years ago, right?
A lot of people forget. Like they look at it and they're like, well, they were so bad last year, and they forget that they lost one of their biggest pieces was gone throughout the whole year.
Yep.
And they had them for the playoffs, and they just lost to get to the champion. You know, like it doesn't. Like to me, there's no fault in losing to the team that wins the championship. Like,
what do you rank Damian Lillard in terms of point guards in the league?
One of my pivot questions was going to be what was like where do we rank? What like I was gonna say like where does he rank as a point guard in the league? Like who do you have ahead of him? And Steph to me is definitely ahead of him
until further notice.
Yeah,
he's still there.
Yeah.
But I just think they do different shit. Like I just think I understand that they both take long threes, but like I just think Damian Lillard is a different type of cat than Steph Curry.
He attacks the basket much more.
Yeah,
he doesn't really do the screens like run around screens as much and stuff like that. But they both have the same. It's because of the dribbling and shooting. Like that's very, very.
But I don't know if there's anybody I want more than Damian Lillard to take a shot at the end of the game.
Steph with like 2016 Steph. Like if we're getting that Steph,
that's 4 years ago. Like we're talking
the last time he was given like the keys and said, "Go do whatever you want."
Yeah, I'm just saying 4 years ago was a while ago now. Like what I'm saying is Damian Lillard is one of the like for me he's the most clutch player in basketball. Consistently. Game in, game out. When you need a winning basket, he comes through with it. Almost like the way Reggie used to be about that. Like if you need a bucket in a very crunch time situation, he is the number one guy I'd pick to get it for you. But you asked me something I couldn't hear.
You over LeBron? You
for me to take a shot, but doesn't mean LeBron's not in that conversation.
Yeah,
I just think I'd take Dame first, just because he's got that I don't give a fuck type. Like I don't know. There's something about when he gets the ball, I think it's going in, and I don't always feel that with LeBron. It depends on the spot.
Yeah.
Like if LeBron's got the ball on the wing and there's a big on him, I know he's going to take the step back three and he's probably going to make it. But conditions have to be perfect. Where for Dame, doesn't matter who's on him. Like he'll take a shot and the series.
He is very. I agree.
He's just got nuts of steel. So I fuck with Dame Lillard. I love this guy. So
I definitely I'm a Dame fan for sure. I personally don't have him ahead of Steph. Like
I just don't think it's where you think it's kind of like. Do you think it's far? Like it's a huge gap
in terms of who's better?
Yeah. I don't think it's as far. But
the whole thing is when you build the way I look at it is you build a team around Steph and they became a dynasty. You build a team around Dame and they can't do that. Like,
but I think Steph's team was built significantly better. I just don't think that's a fair comparison. But if you give Damian Lillard Kevin Durant, like I think he probably wins a championship.
Before Kevin Durant, they were the best team in the league easily. Like, sure,
I know that, but that's not just because of Steph Curry. That's because of the system with Steve Kerr. That's because of the pieces they had around him. Like, it's hard to say that definitively when you talk about Damian Lillard because Damian Lillard's had worse pieces around him and has consistently been in the playoffs every single year
So
in situations where maybe it wasn't a surefire thing. Like he's exceeded expectations multiple times.
does a car work without its engine?
It's not the point. It's really not the. We're talking about two different things.
You put Dame Lillard in the same position as Steph in that system. I don't think he'd do the same thing. Steph made the system work. The reason you make the system is because you make the system because you have the personnel. Like the system.
Right.
Like you wouldn't do the triangle with the Warriors. Like, so to me, it's all about the personnel you have. Because Steph was there, they looked at, we'll build a system like this, and then that system created a dynasty. With Dame Lillard, they're building a system like however the hell they want to work on their superstar strength, and they can't pass the second round, or they've only passed the second round once.
I'm not blaming. I don't know. I can't put that all on Damian Lillard. I just can't do it.
I'm not saying that it's his fault. I'm just saying it just shows that that's where the difference is to me.
Yeah, I don't see that. I just don't agree with that. I think that's a weird way to look at it. But that's neither here nor there.
But to me, I mean, you look at it for every superstar ever. Like
I just think there's a lot of moving pieces, and the Warriors were in the right place, right time, a lot.
Yeah,
I just think everything had to work for 5 years. I really believe that. Like, think about all the injuries that were on other teams throughout that. You know what I mean? Like, I just think there's a lot of things that can be said for a lot of different players. So it's a hard comparison for me to make. But I still think Steph Curry's better. But I don't think it's as far separated. Like, I think Damian Lillard, first of all, the second best player on his team has the exact same dimensions and skill set as he does, but just a little worse.
Yeah.
So in terms of that personnel, I thought CJ McCollum should have been traded years ago, not because he's a bad player, but just because there's already a better version of him on the team. They need different guys. Yeah. You want my opinion? But I think that Nurkic being back is huge, and I definitely think that they have a depth, not a depth issue, a depth surplus. They have a lot of good players on this team that they can put in. I just think this team is better than the 6th spot.
Yeah. Just to go back on that real quick, I guess to reiterate my point, I think if you put most of these superstars in a vacuum, you would get that. You would get this guy's barely better than this guy or whatever, like in a vacuum. But to me, like it's more about like the best comparison to me is Michael Jordan and Kobe. Yeah. Like they had the same exact system, and it was just based on them. And Michael Jordan was able to dominate for 6 years,
right?
Win a championship, and really 8 years the way it worked out.
Right.
But and Kobe, that's to me what makes him greater than Kobe. And it's like he's like clear, like it's a clear greatness. Like he's clearly better than him. Like,
but do you remember
in a vacuum? I don't think that he's significantly better than him.
No,
you know what I mean.
That's my point.
I think that's what I'm talking about.
I guess I look at it, if we're going to look at that specific comparison, I would say when I say there's more to the story than that, like I'd say I think Kobe's era is significantly more competitive, for example. Like, and I think that there's a totally different, and we talked about that in several legacy breakdowns. But I just think, and that's why I've talked to you about this on camera, but that's why I don't really do the greatest discussion anymore. Because I just think there's too many there's too much that has to be perfect. We can talk about how great players are in themselves, but comparing and contrasting, there's just so many different layers to it that I don't think I realized when I was younger as much as I do now. But back to the Portland Trailblazers. What I like the moves they've made in terms of depth. I don't think I like Terry Scott as the head coach. Does that make me nuts?
I don't care much for him. So,
Because my thing is, this is a team that consistently is pretty bad defensively. Like,
but again, like you only could be as good as your personnel. Like I don't know if
not disagreeing with that.
Dame's not a lockdown defender.
I agree.
McCollum is an okay defender. Like
But they don't have an anchor. They don't have a guy like that. And look, last season,
well, Nurkic is
third out of 30 in offensive rating last year, 28th in defensive rating. We'll go on the year before because we'll add Nurk, right? Sixth, or no, third out of 30 again, 16th. Like a little better, but still, in comparison to their offense, which is elite, their defense consistently lacks. And I just think Terry Stotts has been the coach for such a long time that Terry Stotts, fucking, has been been the head coach here for such a long time, and I just don't know. Sometimes that's the move that's got to be made to get these guys to the next level.
Yeah, especially when you got someone, when you see that they've like plateaued pretty much.
Yeah, and I think not necessarily to a negative extent, but I think that a lot of these fucking guys have plateaued. Like, do you think Dame's getting that much better than what he's at right now? No,
I don't think he can unless he.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's scraping the top of his fucking potential.
Yeah, that's the only thing. But I think they need his offense way too much for him not to be to. If he was to try to become a lockdown defender, I think they'd lose out on the offensive side. I don't know if CJ is going to be able to keep up with that.
No, and that's one of the reasons why, like CJ Pelham, undersized shooting guard, completely undersized for the position, does a lot with his potential. Like another guy, I believe, scraping the top of his potential, right? Also a really good podcast host for whatever that's worth. But I think, I just don't know how much higher you can get with these guys unless you make a transition in coaching or you make a change with your roster of one of these major pieces. So while I do think they're going to be better than that sixth spot, I once again am unsure of how far they get in the postseason because of the same things that have plagued them for years. So I guess my question is, at what point do you make a major move?
I'm pretty sure if after this year they don't, to me they're going to be a second round out, most likely first round out.
Right.
And after that, he's probably going to get fired.
But
you're not trading Dame Lillard, who's obviously your future, and maybe they might move CJ. But I definitely see the coach getting fired.
Yeah, which I don't like. That's the thing. Does the coach get fired first, or does a guy like CJ get traded first? What do you think?
Oh, the coach gets fired first.
Isn't that fucking crazy? What would you do if you were the GM?
If I had to choose between trading a guy and firing the guy, well, for one, I would do both.
Right.
I would trade and fire the coach. Mainly because you don't win championships by being middle of the pack defense.
Exactly.
Look at all the champions in the last, probably 20, 40, 60 years.
Yeah.
They've all been top defensive teams.
Yeah, at least top 10. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, even the Warriors, we always talk about how their defense was underrated because their offense was so amazing. But they were always a top 10 defense.
It's one of those things that's fucking with the Mavs and their potential for this season because we don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, but that's why the Mavs ended up getting those pieces for the defensive end because they know they got the offense. But they had the highest rated offense in NBA history. So So I mean, you got to get defense. So that's why, and I think that's a coaching issue. That's automatically a coaching issue.
I would agree completely, and that's kind of why I brought that whole thing up, is because I don't think Terry Stotts being on the hot seat is something that's talked about yet, but I think it fucking should.
He will.
Yeah, I think it should, because at some point, much like you said, when they plateau like that, when they get to a certain spot with Mark Jackson, you got to get to Steve Kerr to get him over the hump. You know, just a new fresh set of eyes on the fucking piece. You know,
and I think they really should. I would trade CJ only because And it's not that he's bad. It's just
No, I agree with you. He's not bad at all.
I think he's just gonna be the piece that you could get most value with.
Yeah.
You know? And I think what they've been trying to do is try to avoid that because I'm sure CJ and Dame are really close. But you always see them trying to get some type of wings.
Yep.
Yes. Wings.
Correct.
And it just doesn't work. It's not working. You don't.
That's what they need to trade CJ for. Like, imagine if they traded CJ for like, I'm just trying to think of like you're at like an average 6'7", like 3-and-D type guy. You know what I mean?
Thompson.
No, that's the once again.
That's the
49 other NBA teams could use Klay Thompson on their fucking squad. But the other guy I always think of is Chris Middleton, right? Just because I know that he's not an elite player, but he's of all-star level, same thing as CJ. Yeah. But has a little bit longer, plays a little bit different on the defensive end, not necessarily better, but different, and gives you that similar scoring output.
Yeah, I just don't. I look at Giannis as a significantly greater player than
Sure.
And so if he can't help Giannis get you know, like Dame definitely brings completely different things to the table.
That's what I'm saying. I just think like it opens the floor a little more for Chris, as opposed to Giannis, who, as we know, there is a formula that works for him, and it forces Chris Middleton into very one-dimensional situations in his own.
What Dame should really do is just get traded to Milwaukee, and
yes,
and then everything is solved. You know, you got the clutch shooter, you got the 3-point shooter, and you got everything, and then Giannis be Giannis. And
yes, you can have Giannis dunk 20 times a game, and no one will give a fuck.
Yeah,
no one will care. No one will pay attention because Damian Lillard is being the clutch master flex on the other side.
Yeah,
exactly. But I'm taking the over, not necessarily because I think the win total is inaccurate, but just because I see them as the fourth or like a fourth or fifth. 6 seems too low to me.
Yeah. What's the win total again?
Yeah, Lim, what's that?
Oh
yeah. I see that. That's a 45 win ball club to me. Mm-hmm. I really like the over for that one, definitely.